welcome back to our channel on this beautiful day. We are thrilled to bring you the latest, most intense developments from Genoa City, where secrets are unraveling, dangerous psychological games are being played, and the stakes have never been higher for your favorite characters. Let us dive right into the heart of the drama unfolding this week. The atmosphere in Genoa City has grown thick with an unspoken, suffocating tension as Phyllis Summers finds herself staring directly into the eyes of a monster. A chilling realization washes over her like a bucket of ice water when she finally pieces together the true identity of the handsome, enigmatic amnesiac sitting before her. Beneath the blank stare and the charming confusion lies the dark, twisted soul of Matt Clark. The sheer magnitude of this discovery sends a visceral shockwave through her system, but Phyllis, ever the master tactician, quickly buries her terror beneath a veneer of calculated composure. She knows that panicking will only make her prey, and Phyllis Summers is no one's victim. Instead of retreating, her mind immediately shifts into overdrive, weaving a complex, high-stakes web designed to trap the very predator who has haunted the nightmares of those she loves. Her motivations for this dangerous game are deeply rooted in a profound, shared trauma. The mere sight of Matt resurrects the harrowing memories of her and Sharon Newman's suffering as helpless test subjects at the sadistic hands of Martin Gray. That dark chapter of their lives forged an unbreakable, albeit complex, bond of survival between the two women. Phyllis is fiercely determined to protect Sharon from enduring another psychological nightmare. The thought of Matt Clark roaming the streets of Genoa City, free to unleash his brand of terror upon a fragile Sharon, ignites a protective fury within Phyllis. She recognizes that Matt is a ticking time bomb, an apex predator temporarily lulled into a false sense of security by his missing memories. And she takes it upon herself to be the one who neutralizes the threat before he can strike again. However, altruism is rarely the sole driving force behind the actions of Phyllis Summers. A brilliant, opportunistic strategist, she immediately sees the immense value of holding Matt Clark captive. She is currently backed into a terrifying corner by Victor Newman, facing the very real threat of federal prison due to his fabricated, artificial intelligence-generated evidence. Matt Clark represents the ultimate bargaining chip in her desperate bid for freedom and corporate survival. If she can successfully capture Victor's greatest, most elusive enemy and deliver him on a silver platter, she believes she can force the Newman patriarch to drop his blackmail campaign. It is a wildly audacious plan, born of sheer desperation and supreme arrogance, positioning Phyllis at the center of a deadly tug-of-war between two ruthless titans. Setting the trap requires a delicate, peerless psychological dance. Phyllis uses every ounce of her charm, manipulation, and sharp wit to keep Matt engaged, carefully feeding him selective information to draw him deeper into her snare. She creates an illusion of safety, positioning herself as a trusted confidant in his confusing, memory-less world. The tension is palpable in every interaction, a razor-thin tightrope walk over a chasm of deadly consequences. Phyllis knows that she must maintain absolute control over the narrative, masking her predatory intentions with feigned empathy and magnetic allure, all while secretly coordinating the logistics of a capture that could save her empire or end her life. Yet, the inherent flaw in her brilliant design lies in the unpredictable nature of Matt Clark's latent darkness. Even without his explicit memories, his sociopathic instincts remain hardwired into his psyche. There is a constant, terrifying risk that Matt will sense the subtle discrepancies in her behavior, the calculated coldness hiding behind her dazzling smile. The atmosphere crackles with the threat of imminent discovery. If Matt's predatory intuition pierces through the fog of his amnesia, he will undoubtedly realize that Phyllis is a dangerous adversary, than a newfound friend. Should he catch on to her deceit, the trap will spectacularly fail, allowing Matt to vanish back into the shadows and transforming Phyllis from a cunning hunter into a marked target. Meanwhile, a different kind of suffocating tension grips the sprawling estate of the Newman ranch. The heavy, mahogany-scented air of Victor Newman's study feels utterly oppressive as the patriarch summons his son, Nick Newman, for a devastating confrontation. The stakes are deeply personal and fraught with paternal terror. Adam Newman's sharp observations have reached his father's ears, bringing the horrifying suspicion of Nick's drug relapse into the harsh light of day. Victor, a man who commands global empires with a mere whisper, finds himself facing an enemy he cannot simply buy out or crush in a boardroom, the insidious chemical demon of addiction ravaging his own flesh and blood. Victor lays down a series of strict, uncompromising regulations, his voice a low, dangerous rumble that brooks no argument. He directly challenges Nick about his sobriety, demanding the absolute truth with a piercing gaze that seeks to strip away any lingering deception. The patriarch is acutely aware of the chaotic, violent storm brewing around Matt Clark's return, and he issues a definitive edict forbidding Nick from participating in the impending manhunt. Victor recognizes that Nick's mind is heavily clouded by the toxic haze of narcotics, rendering him a severe liability in a life-or-death confrontation with a seasoned psychopath. It is a desperate, heavy-handed attempt by a powerful father to exert control over a son who is rapidly spiraling out of his grasp. For Nick, the confrontation is a source of profound, agonizing internal torment. He stands before his father, projecting an aura of defensive anger, while internally, his body is screaming in the throes of severe chemical dependency. The physical withdrawal symptoms are relentless, agonizing fire in his veins, a desperate hunger that eclipses all logic and reason. Nick is torn between his noble, deep-seated desire to protect his family from Matt Clark and the ignoble, humiliating reality of his fentanyl cravings. The suffocating pressure of Victor's intense scrutiny only amplifies his desperation, making the walls of the ranch feel like a gilded prison rather than a sanctuary of healing. Tragically, the pull of the darkness proves far stronger than the strength of his father's commands. Despite Victor's strict edicts and his own enrollment in an outpatient rehabilitation program, Nick finds himself entirely unable to resist the overwhelming demands of his addiction. The internal conflict reaches a breaking point, culminating in a heartbreaking surrender to his chemical demons. Driven by a compulsion he can no longer control, Nick disobeys Victor's direct orders and ventures out into the unforgiving night, descending into the seedy, dangerous underbelly of the city to seek out a street-level drug dealer. It is a devastating realization that Nick's battle requires a level of intervention and profound healing that his family's wealth and strict rules simply cannot provide. Across town, another prominent patriarch is navigating his own descent into moral ambiguity. Jack Abbott, feeling the agonizing fracture of his family and the overwhelming weight of his recent traumas, resorts to highly questionable, desperate measures. In a bid to turn the tide against his enemies, Jack decides to weaponize the ultimate, unstable wild card, Patty Williams. The Abbott patriarch engages in a dark, calculated campaign of psychological manipulation, actively urging Patty to align with him in a targeted crusade against Victor Newman. It is a shocking departure from Jack's usual moral compass, highlighting the sheer depths of his desperation to reclaim control over his fractured world. Jack expertly exploits the fragile, deeply damaged architecture of Patty's mind. He knows that her enduring, deeply unhealthy obsession with him makes her highly susceptible to his influence. Patty, ever eager to bask in Jack's attention and validation, is easily swayed by his charming rhetoric and promises of partnership. She views this dangerous alliance through the distorted lens of her own romantic delusions, completely unaware that she is being utilized as a blunt instrument of corporate and personal warfare. Jack's willingness to manipulate a severely mentally ill woman underscores the toxic, corrupting nature of the endless feuds that define the lives of Genoa City's elite. However, this unholy alliance is a terrifying ticking time bomb. Patty Williams is a chaotic force of nature, a woman whose profound instability makes her entirely impossible to control. Jack's hubris in believing he can carefully direct her madness toward Victor without suffering any collateral damage is a staggering miscalculation. Patty is driven by her own erratic impulses and distorted perceptions of reality. The plan carries a monumental risk of failing disastrously, as Patty's unpredictable nature threatens to derail Jack's carefully laid schemes, potentially unleashing a wave of uncontrollable destruction that could consume the Abbott family just as easily as it targets the Newmans. Watching these beloved characters spiral into such dark, destructive patterns evokes a profound sense of melancholy and genuine sorrow. The tragic cycle of trauma, addiction, and revenge in this city seems utterly inescapable. Witnessing a fundamentally good man like Nick Newman succumb to the visceral, degrading horrors of opiate addiction is genuinely heartbreaking. A stark reminder that the monster of dependency does not care about legacy or wealth. Similarly, seeing Jack Abbott, a man who usually strives for honor, compromise his core integrity by manipulating a vulnerable, mentally ill woman like Patty, leaves a heavy, lingering sadness. It reflects the absolute darkest corners of human nature, where unhealed pain breeds further destruction, and one cannot help but mourn the tragic loss of their moral innocence. As these volatile narratives accelerate toward their inevitable, explosive collisions, the entire landscape of the city teeters on the edge of a precipice. The intricate, deadly trap has been set in the shadows of the athletic club. The desperate addict is prowling the unforgiving streets in search of his next devastating fix. And the unpredictable mad woman has been fully unleashed upon an unsuspecting enemy. The delicate, trembling house of cards is about to collapse in spectacular fashion. Will Phyllis successfully capture the monster, or will she become his ultimate prey? Will Nick survive the suffocating grip of his chemical demons, or will he perish in the dark alleys of his own making? And when Patty's chaotic, uncontainable storm finally breaks, who will be left standing in the shattered wreckage? The answers remain hidden in the shadows, waiting to be revealed in the thrilling days to come.